Kolkata Metro City. I welcome you all for our third third class and benches to bed. And it is everybody know now it is because third class we are doing this for the PGT and by the PGT. And today I am really thankful to Dr. Gedu and Dr. Chakravarti to be faculty here. And Dr. Rangeet Bagchi, he is the DNB second year student from the Fortis Hospital, Kolkata. He will present the class. So I welcome you all. Thank you. So Krishnendu, please. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Rangeet, you will start presenting the case first. Gedu sir, Dr. Gedu is already there, and another examiner, Dr. Jayanto Chakraborty, will be joining us soon because he is trying to join with his phone. There is some network issue, but as soon as he connect, he will join. So
So
already
just
Dr. Gedu is there.
Krishnendu, just
Yes.
give introduction of Dr. Yeah, I'll introduce Dr. Gedu. Dr. Gedu is like elder brother to me, and I don't know for everyone, but I know him for last 15 years. I have learned the pain because of Dr. Gedu. I just called him and asked, I'm coming to Mumbai. I want to come to Tata Medical Center and to see your setup. It is in 2006. And then he said, yes, dear, come. He's always like that. He's very helpful. Anyone can approach anytime. He's really helpful and lots of learning. He's mentor to so many anesthetists, so many pain physicians. So he is just elder to me. And thank you, sir, for joining us today. Thank you. And Dr. Chakravarti, Krishnendu, yes.
Dr. Chakraborty has not joined the room yet. He will be joining soon. He is a professor in NRS Medical College. He's on the. He's trying to join through his mobile, but I think there is some network issue. As soon as the issue is solved, he will be joining. I will just have a talk with him. Rangeet, you just start presentation, and as after Dr. Chakraborty joins, you will just summarize the case. You start the presentation.
So good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Rangeet Bagchi. I'm a second year DNB resident from Fortis Hospitals, Kolkata. And today I'll be presenting my case, which is a large solitary thyroid swelling in a patient posted for thyroidectomy. So this patient was a 32-year-old female who presented with a swelling in the neck for the past 3 months. Along with a difficulty in swallowing for the past 2 weeks and a difficulty in breathing for the past 1 week. These were her chief complaints. The patient noticed a painless swelling in the neck 3 months ago, which moved up and down on swallowing. It was insidious in onset and gradually increased in size, progressing to almost double the initial size at the time of presentation. She had a history of difficulty in swallowing for the past 2 weeks, which was initially limited to solids and progressed to include liquids after 3 or 4 days. She had a history of difficulty in breathing for 1 week, which was present at rest and during activity. These chief complaints were associated with excessive sweating, palpitations, significant weight loss, and irritability, which she had noticed gradually. But there was no change in her voice. She did not have any past history of any major illness or surgery, no significant medication history, and no family history of similar disorder. General examination was conducted. She was a young female with an average build, moderately nourished. There was no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, edema, or lymphadenopathy which were observed. Her vitals were examined, which showed a non-invasive blood pressure of 130/70. Heart rate was around varied from 110 to 120 beats per minute, but the rhythm was regular. It wasn't irregular. She was afebrile and her room air saturation was 99% in room air. Local examination starting with inspection. It showed a midline swelling of 10 into 8 centimeters, which moved with deglutition. The skin over the swelling appeared normal. There were no engorged veins over the area, but the patient was restless, sweating, and there were some signs of fine tremors which were visible on her hands. Palpation was conducted from anterior and posterior approach. The skin over the swelling was warm and moist. On palpation, a diffuse swelling was found, which was firm in consistency, and the surface was smooth. There was a palpable thrill over the right lobe. The palpation did not find any tenderness on over the lobes. The lymph nodes were not palpable, and the swelling we were able to get under the swelling. Routine airway examination, which showed that her mouth opening could be open for up to 2 finger breaths. Mullumbati grade was 3, and neck flexion was mildly restricted with a normal extension. So the case summary says a 32-year-old female presented with complaints of an anterior midline swelling in the neck for 3 months and difficulty in swallowing and breathing, which had aggravated over 2 weeks. It was associated with excessive sweating, palpitations, irritability, and weight loss. The swelling had a firm consistency and it moved with deglutition. It was possible to get below the swelling.
Can I ask something?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Over to you. Over to Dr. Gedu. Dr. Gedu, I just want to tell you one thing. Another examiner, Dr. Jayanto Chakraborty, will be joining within 10 minutes. Okay. As soon
Fair
as
enough.
he join, I will introduce him, and then I think if Rangit repeats the summary, then it will be easier for him also. So you start the proceeding, and as soon as
What?
Jayanto sir joins, yes, Jayanto
Yes.
sir joined, then I will introduce him. Okay.
Rangit,
Okay, sir. Okay. Over to you.
Krishnendu, you
Yes,
videos on, you do the video, everyone videos on, audio off.
Okay,
What you
okay,
have done,
okay.
you have, yeah, make them mute, but let the video on.
Okay,
We can
okay,
see.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I believe you should have asked also the history of heat intolerance. If the patient complains of heat intolerance, that is also important for us to have an early diagnosis.
Yeah.
Plus, you can also ask the history of something like flushing of the face, or increasing weakness. Maybe if it is let's say if it is a hypothyroid, then even weight gain. So these also things also had to be asked in the past. Plus, is patient on some drug medications? Because there are certain drugs also which also are sort of a providing for the thyroid problems. So that also sometimes you'll have to ask that whether patient is consuming any drug, whether it is, I mean, relevant or not, but at least you should be able to tell. And one more thing, of course, since it is Calcutta, again, it's on the seashore. I will go more on the hillside if this lady is staying from Himalaya where there is an iodine deficiency. So in that condition also, you get thyroid swelling.
Okay.
Of course, may not be relevant, but this has to be included in the past history or present illness, whatever it is. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, this is relevant one. That's the reason I asked. Plus, in the pulse also, when you're examining, you are not still come onto the pulse examination, I believe. You're yet to examine the pulse, but only thing you said about inspection and all. In the pulse also, you are supposed to discuss a complete detail about the pulse. Whether it is irregular, is it same on both sides? Because these patients are known for atrial fibrillation. If it is, let's say it is a thyrotoxicosis, because the swelling is pretty big one, it is already obstructing respiration as well as deglutition. So these are few of the relevant finding I believe it has to be asked. Plus, you should have also mentioned a little bit about eye signs, whether patient has got eye signs or not. Since you have talked about general examination and local inspection, palpation, etc. That also is important, whether the eye signs are present or not present.
Okay.
Plus, even the protrusion of the tongue or what you call stretching the hand to see whether there are tremors or not. Because these all go in the favor of positive favor of either it is a thyrotoxicosis or not. Because even if it may not be toxicosis, but it's a grace for the examiners that they will take you to the thyrotoxicosis.
Mhm.
So even if it is a negative finding, you have to tell these are relevant negative findings. That when I told the patient to what you call protrude the tongue and hang it out, I could not see any tremors on the tongue. Or when the outstretched hand also, I could not see any tremors. Pulse full, I mean regular, irregular, what is the rate, how much is the both pulse to pulse difference, these also you have to be told. Okay, it's
Okay.
not to upset you or depress you, but these are the relevant findings. It's lucky you're in second year, that's fantastic. This will definitely add you once you go into the appearing stage. Okay, yeah. Now I think we'll have to wait for Dr. Chakravarti to come.
Sir, I think you should start. Sir, start. Then, as soon as Jayanto sir joins, I will introduce him, and then Rangit, I think, will give another summary. Then we will continue.
Fair enough.
Okay, sir.
Have you seen about the central nervous system reflexes also? Though you may
Central.
have said me the central nervous system is normal, but
Mhm.
this is relevant for the toxicosis and all those things, hyperthyroidism and all. That also has to be told that whether there is a hyperreflexia or not. Okay?
Mhm.
Yeah. So shall I continue with the proper protocol next?
Yes, sir. Continue, sir. You, sir, continue.
Please continue, sir.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your eye signs which are possible in a toxicosis or the Graves disease? Can you describe me some eye signs?
Yeah. One of the eye signs is the Dalrymple sign, which is also called the lid retraction. In
Yeah.
Dalrymple sign, what we see is the upper part of the sclera, upper 2 millimeter of the sclera is visible.
Okay.
Then comes the lid lag sign, which is also called the von Grieff sign. In von Grieff sign, the patient is asked to look down suddenly, and the upper eyelid lags. It's quite
Okay.
evident, as we see.
Fine.
Then comes the
Any other? There are 4, 5 signs.
yeah. There are 5 signs.
Yeah.
There is the Mobius sign,
There is one Graffe sign.
von Grieff sign, Dalrymple sign. There is the Mobius sign, which is a decreased convergence of the eyeballs. Then
Yeah.
is the
Okay. Can you explain me what is the cause for exophthalmos in a thyrotoxic patient or hyperthyroid patient? Why exophthalmos occurs?
it's
What is the
because of the
pathophysiology?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's because of increase in cytokines and inflammatory exudates.
Oh, there's no exudate there.
Increase in cytokines which get deposited on the
No, there is an increased incidence of edema, fat deposition in the retrobulbar tissue. So
retrobulbar
that
tissue.
brings the eyeball in front. So that is the cause. Now, what exactly happens is, this is for your knowledge, there is something called EPF, that is called exophthalmos producing factor, which is being secreted by the brain or the pituitary. So whenever the patient is thyrotoxic and whenever the demand is more, there is a production of exophthalmos producing factor. And this is the one reason which is being told about the production of the exophthalmos. See, these are few things which I think quite a few people don't know it. Like, what is LUTS? What is LUTS? LATS?
Local anesthetic systemic toxicity.
That is last.
LATS is
I didn't say last. I said last.
thyroid
LATS.
stimulator.
Sorry?
long-acting thyroid stimulator.
So this is the one factor which gets secreted, and this is the factor which produces all the signs of toxicosis of the grave sign. So these are few things which you have to remember these things. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, since you are told about pulse, you have described about pulse and everything. Now tell me how you are going to proceed in this patient.
Proceed with the physical examination, or
I think you already told clinical examination. You want to repeat?
আপকেক আছে
Hello, Rangit.
yes, sir.
Okay, go for clinical examination. Let's see.
Clinical examination.
Yeah.
Okay, first we see the proper feces. Thyrotoxic feces will be inspecting the patient. We will find a anxious stare on a patient. Patient will have signs of restlessness, irritability.
Yes.
Then the patient will have, there will be fine tremors on the hands. Then the patient will have warm and moist skin. Facial flushing will be seen, and a visible inspection. Then we come to the inspection of the glands. There we could see the swelling, if the trachea, if the swelling is on the one side or the other one, if it's deviation, if there is any kind of flushing over the skin of the gland. Then inspection will include these only. The
In
eye
this
signs will be
patient, there
seen.
is well, Rangit, one
Mhm.
thing is still left, that is called trail sign. Trail, trail sign. What is trail sign?
Trail sign. I have
This is
noted
a
it.
fact that is to be told in the inspection. The trail sign shows since your patient had swelling more mainly on one side of the, it's not exactly fully in the center. It's on one side, the right side. So in this condition, the sternocleidomastoid on that side, the muscle becomes more prominent. So that is
Okay.
what we call it as a trail sign. So here you'll have to say, let's say it is the right side you said, na? So you
Hmm.
should say that the right side trail sign is positive. The
Okay.
left is not positive.
Hmm.
This is on inspection.
On
Okay.
inspection.
So this one you have missed. Go
Hmm.
ahead.
Okay. Then we go to the palpation. In palpation, we have to palpate the gland from the posterior approach as well as the anterior approach.
Yes, absolutely right.
From the posterior approach, we have to check for the size, consistency, location, and if there is any deviation, the surface of the glands, surface of the mass swelling. Then from the anterior approach, we can undergo a process what is called the Leahy's method.
What is that? Explain.
Leahy's method is a method in which the gland is pushed to one side of the lobe to be examined and palpated with the other hand to examine the surface consistency. It makes the protrusion, the swelling more prominent.
But I just, since you said this, honestly, I forgot that word. That is what we call it as when you push the that gland or the tumor from one side to the other side. There is a stimulation of the nerve which causes a stridor. I forgot the sign. Once it comes, I'll
Yeah, it's
let
called
you.
posture sign.
Sorry. Yes,
Posture
yes,
sign.
you are absolutely right. So this also you can tell because it's a right side is swelling. So when I try to push it on the left side, did he get a sort of a stridor sound? That
Yeah.
also has to be so. So you can say that Kocher's sound is, I mean, Kocher's sign is positive or negative. Okay,
Okay.
good. You're doing a very good job. Good, excellent. Go ahead.
For the from the anterior approach, we check for the size again. Size, if it is small or large. Consistency, we have to check if it is soft. Firm will denote that it is a goiter. Then if it is hard, it will denote that it's a malignancy. Then we will check for the compression, if there is any kind of compression. we will check for the auscultation if there is any bruit. A palpable thrill should be elicited on the side.
So what palpable thrill suggests?
Hello, sorry.
If I say there is a palpable thrill also,
Thrill.
what
Mhm.
does it indicate?
Indicates the increased vascularity of the gland on the side.
So goes in favor of thyrotoxicosis. Okay.
Thyrotoxicosis.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Then
You are not said about when you have palpation. You are not told about can you get below the swelling.
yeah,
That you should have palpated from behind. You have to stand behind and then put your hand just near the clavicle area so that you can see whether you can really go below the
below the
swelling.
swelling.
Okay. So that you will have to include. Have you told me that?
No, I haven't.
Yes. Next. So well, in this patient, is it? Can you go below the swelling?
We can go below the swelling.
Okay, done. Good. Next.
Then inspection done, palpation is done. Then we go for auscultation.
Yes.
A systolic murmur could be audible.
Yes. Okay.
Then um,
We don't say it as a systolic murmur onto the thyroid.
no, not on the thyroid.
No, on thyroid, when you are ausculting, what you found? Because
A
we are still
bruit.
in thyroid. You've come,
Bruit
yes,
could be.
because we are still in thyroid. You have just completed an inspection,
Okay.
palpation, and then
Mhm.
you'll have to go for auscultation also on the thyroid gland. So if it is a thyrotoxic gland, you will get a bruit also. Since you got a palpable thrill, that means you will get bruit also. Okay? Then you can go to the other systems. Come on, go to the other system now.
CVS, we'll start with the cardiovascular system.
Yes.
In cardiovascular system, we can find these are the indications of thyrotoxicosis, which I'll be specifying right now. Patient will have signs of palpitation, tachycardia.
So,
Then
so what you found on auscultation, if this patient is toxicosis.
there will be a systolic murmur. Could be a little elicited. It's not always found, but it could be elicited. A
That's
systolic
all.
murmur.
Only one thing. Will
Um,
you get sound of atrial fibrillation? That means you are getting a multiple type of beats and all, irregular heartbeats.
hmm.
That also need to be told that whether you are getting irregular heartbeat or a systolic murmur, whatever you say. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then in cardiovascular system, we didn't elicit anything else for the examination. Then in central nervous system, the patient was restless, agitated.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What else? There were no signs of any delirium, any psychosis or delirium, nothing like that.
Hmm.
Then respiratory system, the patient was tachypneic.
That's all. Nothing else.
Thank you.
Go ahead next. You have finished respiratory, cardiac, and local examination. Are you going for central nervous system and GI?
Central nervous system, so I said the patient was restless, agitated.
So you
There
should have
was no
also seen
tremors,
about, since patient is restless and all, you should have also told whether there is a hyperreflexia or not.
hyperreflexia.
You should have said at least one reflex. Let's say knee jerk. Let's say
Knee jerk.
patella reflex.
Mhm.
Okay, at least they are hyperreflexic or not. Even if it is a negative, since we are going into slowly toxicosis, so you have to tell that also. Okay. Next, even if it is negative, you have to say it. Next, in GI, what do you expect the changes due to thyrotoxicosis?
In GI, there will be increased motility, increased appetite. incidences of diarrhea,
Right.
can be in
Yes.
steatorrhea could be found, vomiting, and thyrotoxicosis. These are the ones. Um, decreased decreased body weight.
Decrease body weight. Okay, fine. That doesn't come in GI. That will come in the general examination. That's okay, fine. So now with this, all these findings, whatever you have said, how you are going to proceed with this patient further? What all things you want to go?
I'll order. First, I'll come to the blood investigations. The investigations which I'll order.
What you expect in the blood investigation? Tell me the details of blood investigation.
The CBC I'll send the complete blood count. There might be anemia. Then electrolytes will be sent. The patient thyrotoxic patients have a history of hyponatremia. They do present with hyponatremia.
Okay, we have checked this. These are all normal. Next,
Then
any other investigations?
the serum T3, T4, TSH will be sent.
So what will be the picture of T3, TSH, and T4 in case it is, let's say, hypo or hyperthyroid?
In hypothyroidism, since the patient is hyperthyroid, the patient's TSH will be low and the serum T3 and T4s will be high.
And in hyper?
These are in hyperthyroidism. In hypothyroidism, the patient's TSH will be high and serum T3, T4 will be low.
Fine. Any other investigation you would like to do?
Regarding the thyroid, I'll ask for a radioactive iodine uptake test. Then resin T3 uptake test could be done.
Do we do it ideally in your hospital? The radioactive uptake
No, we
test?
do not.
So just stop what you people do in your hospital. That is very important. These are all theoretical things. We don't want that.
Mhm.
We want the practical things, what you do. So apart from your blood investigation, which I said, let's say it is all normal.
Yeah. We'll ask for an ECG to be done. ECG will
What
be done.
what do you expect in the ECG?
ECG, I'll find a sinus tachycardia. There could be ectopic beats.
Ectopic is not the right word. You should say atrial fibrillation.
Atrial fibrillation. Yeah. That
Say
could
the
be
right.
done.
Ectopic can be in bradycardia, mainly. Atrial fibrillation, signs of atrial fibrillations are there. So whenever you get a signs of atrial fibrillation, in your past history, you should also talk about, is there any history of syncopal attack?
Yeah.
Because it is being associated with a syncopal attack due to some embolization that occurs on the what you call mitral valve areas. I mean, well, the blood is in the stasis due to atrial fibrillation. So that one should be added. It's not that I'm telling you, but I'm just teaching you that in the past history, you should also say patient has no history of syncopal attacks. And if examiner asks you why you're asking this, then you can say if patient is thyrotoxic, in such a condition, patient can have atrial fibrillation, which can cause the stasis of the blood into the left atrium, and thereafter it can produce embolization. Okay?
Okay.
So in ECG, you expect not only tachycardia, you should say I can expect even the atrial fibrillation. Okay? Next, any other investigation?
Next, I'll ask for a chest X-ray, and AP, and the neck, AP, and lateral
What
neck.
you tell me one thing, what you expect in chest X-ray? Forget, I'm not asking right now about AP lateral. I'm asking only X-ray chest. Tell me what you expect.
X-ray chest, I could find a sign. Cardiomegaly could be found.
Yes. Any
Then
other?
tracheal deviation could be seen, even on a
Oh,
chest X-ray.
anything more?
Uh, Pleural and pericardial effusions could be found.
Okay. Next, what about X-ray lateral and AP?
X-ray neck epilateral, we could find the proper deviation and the location.
Proper deviation
Exactly
and
completely.
Deviation and compression both,
Compression
right?
mode.
So what happens? This
So
much you will get only information only this much that there is a deviation and there is a compression. One thing you missed also in the X-ray test, you can also find out whether there is a retrosternal extension or not.
retrosternal extension. Yes.
Yes. There is one very good question that has been asked routinely in the examination, which even I asked. Now you can tell me that also. Even if you don't tell, don't get panic. The thing is, if given a choice, apart from all your investigation, if I tell you one investigation which will help the anesthetist much more, anesthetist relevant, which one will you go ahead?
The CT scan, CT,
No way, I'm not interested in CT scan at all.
then we can go for a indirect laryngoscopy could be done with the mirror
One, yes,
examination.
one is correct, which you have missed, indirect laryngoscopy. One, any other? One more.
One more.
One more very
And
relevant one. You should always say whenever this question is being asked that one more very relevant for me is flow volume loop.
flow volume loop. Yes.
Now you tell me, now since I have given you the answer, tell me what you expect. Suppose this is a, let's say, retrosternal goiter.
Mhm.
What do you expect in your flow volume loop?
If there is a retrosternal goiter, there will be a lag in the inspiratory limb during.
So how you describe that? I'm not talking the mechanism. I'm asking how you describe it. It is a, if it is said as a flow volume loop.
The expiratory phase will be prolonged.
Not prolonged, I can say it is, there will be compression. So what I say, you should describe it in one proper wordings, that you should say that it is, if it is a retrosternal goiter, it
Mhm.
is a variable extrathoracic tumor. Okay?
Okay. Mhm.
Basically, it is extrathoracic since it's from the neck, but it is going down, and when respiration goes, it goes up and down. So this is variable. Another thing you should always remember is, suppose this is, let's say this is a malignancy. In such a condition, it also encroaches, and it sort of a encroaches onto the tracheal wall. So once it encroaches the tracheal wall, so below sternum, substernal level, it becomes fixed. So in such condition, it becomes a fixed intrathoracic type of tumor. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Either variable extrathoracic or fixed. Okay?
Mhm.
So that word has to be, you should talk about these things. Fine? Yes.
Yeah.
Anything more? Is that enough for your investigation?
Mm,
What do you expect in ideal, by the way? Indirect laryngoscopy?
Indirect laryngoscopy, we will check for the vocal cord function.
Okay.
Vocal cord function, if there
Let's
is
say,
any. Mhm.
since it's a, okay, let's say it is a right-sided tumor. So let me say there is a right-sided tumor, right-sided cord is sort of a paralyzed. So
Hmm.
what do you expect in this um, indirect laryngoscopy?
So we'll be able to see that the movement will be more on the other side, and hyperabduction on the left vocal cord.
So you will say, you'll have to tell that you will get like this picture. Okay. So left is moving, this is fixed down.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. While normally it is a V shape,
Hmm.
but here this gets paralyzed, this doesn't move, this is
Yeah.
moving. Okay. Yeah. Now go ahead. Now we have done that, all those things. Let me say, do you want to go with a thyrotoxicosis?
Yes.
Yes. So let me say we have investigated and I came to the conclusion that this patient is in a thyrotoxicosis. He has got a lot of distorted pictures, right from atrial fibrillation, right from your TSH, T3, T4 level. He is a case of thyrotoxicosis. Of course, with a pressure side on the esophagus, trachea, as well as maybe one-sided partly cord palsy. All those things are there, and there is a small amount of change of voice also. And you already told me that patient is unable to eat earlier with solid. Now even it is difficult for him to take the liquid.
Liquid.
Correct?
Yeah.
I think you said this. Correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to go with a retrosternal also? See, let me tell you, it's not that I want to corner you. It's basically my aim is to tell you people also that when examiners can ask you this question,
Hmm.
you should be prepared for this also.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me put it that, okay, we will put the retrosternal later. Right now, this is the thyroid swelling, which is going in favor of thyrotoxicosis.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me how you are going to go ahead with this. We have already come to a provisional diagnosis. Okay.
Hmm.
Let's say all signs of thyrotoxicosis are there. So if I am the surgeon and I will say that I don't understand anesthesia, I want to say that, okay, you have done it, you have said thyrotoxicosis, PSC, you are done. Now I want to operate tomorrow. Will you permit me?
No, tomorrow we can. Emergency surgery can be done. We can optimize the patients. We have to give him some medications immediately.
Anyway, don't commit like that immediately. At least you can say that ideally, I will make the surgeon wait for at least some X amount of
24 to
weeks.
48 hours.
How many weeks you want me to wait?
6 to 8 weeks. If it
Okay,
is an elective.
fine. 6 to 8 weeks, they don't wait. 3 to 4 weeks is also enough to
Mhm.
begin with. Okay, I am okay with that. I want to wait 3, 4 weeks also since you want to optimize the patient. Tell me how
Mhm.
you are going to optimize the patient.
Sir, Dr. Krishnendu here. Can I just interfere? I think Dr. Jayanto sir is here. Jayanto sir, can
Yes,
you
yes,
hear me?
sure.
Jayanto sir, I can see you, I think. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, sir, continue. I will just connect with him over phone.
Fine, you continue. Yeah, tell me, I have given you 4 weeks time.
Yeah.
Tell me how you are going to either stabilize or optimize whatever you want to do.
The
Tell.
patients.
And you are the only person, you don't have any senior with you. Tell
Hmm.
me how you are going to do it.
I'll start the patient on propyl thiouracil, 100
Okay.
to 200 to 300 milligram twice a day, thrice a day.
So can you tell me what is the mechanism of propyl thiouracil?
Propyl thiouracil acts by it inhibits the organification of iodine, and as well as it prevents peripheral conversion of T4 to T3.
Yes. Okay. Next.
Then I'll after
That much
after
is enough.
no, we're gonna start him on potassium iodide or some iodides in. I will start him on potassium iodide saturated solution, 3 to 5 drops thrice a day after 2 or 3 days of starting the antithyroid drugs.
Okay. Anything more?
Beta blockers have to be started. I will give him propranolol 10 to 40 milligram 4 times a day, and our aim is to keep the heart rate under 85 beats per minute.
Okay.
Then I'll give him dexamethasone or hydrocortisone. Dexamethasone 2 milligram.
No, I won't give dexamethasone during the preparation time. I won't go ahead with this. Dexamethasone is not that much indicated. The initial 3 drugs, whatever you said, is perfect. Now you tell me, suppose you have started it, now possibly we are in the third week.
Hmm.
Huh? How you know that your patient is responding well?
Yeah. We'll check for the patient's symptoms. There will be a decrease in dysphagia
Like
if there is an
dysphagia.
increased appetite. If there is decrease in the tremors, restlessness, then we'll see if there is any uh,
One thing, a very important thing as an anesthetist, you are missed. That is sleeping pulse rate.
sleeping pulse rate.
Okay, which may be initially like a patient was, I told you, in atrial fibrillation. So which may be something like 150, 180. Now, since our drugs are working, there are 3, 4 signs which you have to say that now the patient's tremors have gone. There is a psychologically, his anxiety is reduced, and there is a psychological well-being patient is feeling, and heat intolerance is gone. And once I touch the thyroid, the local temperature which was raised earlier or the thrill and etc. was there, slowly they start disappearing, and there becomes a small amount of firmness and reduction of the size of the tumor.
Yes.
Okay, gland, not tumor, gland. Okay, these are the signs you should say. So I'll take the sleeping pulse rate also at the end of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. Okay,
Okay.
fine. Next. So now you have stabilized the patient according to you. Now tell me how you are going to go ahead. Let me tell you the swelling is quite a big still. It is not reduced a little but not significantly reduced. And as of now, I am not putting it into the retrosternal. Okay? Don't worry, I'll make it retrosternal later. Right now, it is not retrosternal, but the swelling is quite a big one. Now tell me how you are going to plan your anesthesia.
The patient will be given, I will go for an awake fiber optic intubation for this patient.
Your institute doesn't have awake fiber optic institute intubation. Next. By the way, why you want to go awake fiber optic? By the way, if I can ask you.
Because there is
Sorry.
tracheal compression too. There are signs of tracheal compression.
Okay. Well, your institute doesn't have that. Next. But normally examiners know how to corner the students. Don't worry.
If there is no awake fiber optic, if there is no fiber optic bronchoscope available, then our only option will be to do a
It's not
tracheostomy.
available in your Fortis hospital. It is not available. Next. Shailesh is laughing.
Regional anesthesia could be attempted if the patient is cooperative.
Lovely, lovely. Have you heard about the thyroid block?
Yes, I have.
Have you practiced?
I haven't.
Now, since you are committed, tell me how you are going to go ahead with this block. Which are the nerves or plexus or whatever you are talking? Tell me.
We'll be performing a superficial and deep cervical plexus block, which
Yes,
will be
okay. How you do it? Tell me how you are going to do it. Tell me the landmarks.
Landmark will be the posterior, the lateral border of sternocleidomastoid, the mastoid process, and the point of insertion will be 3 centimeter distal to the mastoid process for a deep cervical plexus block.
Okay.
And
it should
for
be,
a superficial,
you see, you have to draw a line from the mastoid process to the clavicular joint of the sternocleidomastoid. That line you have to draw, and from that line, just 2 centimeter behind and 2 centimeter down. That will be the first point for C2. Then 1.5 centimeter down, C3, C4, like that. Mainly, you are supposed to give C2, 3, 4, at the most 5. Okay. This is for your deep cervical plexus block. What about the superficial?
For the superficial, we draw a line from the mastoid process to the clavicle, then take the midpoint of the lateral border. From there, we first inject in we take a fanning appearance. We inject cephalad and quarterly first to infiltrate the lesser occipital and greater auricular branches, then the supraclavicular branches and transverse cervical branches we have to block. These are the four
Rangit,
branches.
Rangit, are you reading or are you talking just like
I
that?
am talking by myself.
Sure, no?
I completely.
Okay. So now tell me what is the amount of the drug and volume, percent and the drugs.
I will choose 6 ml, 6 ml of 0.25% bupivacaine
Okay.
with 1.5 ml in each quadrant for the each nerve.
And
Cephalad.
what about the deep?
For the deep, I'll choose a similar amount, sir.
Only 1.5 ml is not enough.
The 6 ml for the total.
See, the total volume possibly you will have to give is practically, remember this is a midline swelling. So you have to give bilateral.
Yeah.
So the total volume goes to about 25 to 30 ml. I'm not asking the detailed combo of how much is the lignocaine, how much is the test. Can I inject with adrenaline?
No, I will not use any sympathetic stimulating drugs during the management of this patient.
Okay. Let's say suppose I did that.
Unmute
Since
করে
I'm-
দিলাম।
Sorry?
Now
think-
you can hear me.
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear you.
আমি কিন্তু-
sir.
I can't hear
Doctor-
anybody.
Dr. Gedu. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Gedu, Dr. Krishnendu here. Dr. Jayanto sir, Dr. Jayanto Chakraborty has already joined it.
Yes, I
Sir,
could
can you
see.
hear? Yeah, sir, can you hear me?
I can
Jayanto
hear
sir.
you properly. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
We can.
I'm very, very sorry because I was in a pick. I could not join for last 15-20 minutes. I'm very sorry you have proceeded much. Okay, carry on, please.
I think do one thing, Rangit. Just
Yes.
tell him the summary, whatever it is, so that he can join it in a proper way. Just summarize.
Yes.
Okay. Just summarize him.
So the patient is a 32-year-old female presenting with complaints of an anterior midline swelling in the neck for the past 3 months, associated with difficulty in swallowing and breathing, which had aggravated over 2 weeks. And the patient also had a history of excessive sweating, palpitations, irritability, and weight loss. The swelling had a firm consistency and it moved with deglutition. And it was possible to get below the swelling on physical examination.
Well, I love it.
And you also tell that we have done the diagnosis has been done, clinical investigations almost had been done. He has covered all the investigation, and now he has sort of given all the anti-thyroid drugs, etc., so as to stabilize the patient.
So the diagnosis of this swelling is what
We
he
have
has
made-
done.
What we have done is we have made it as a thyrotoxicosis.
Yes.
So after that, he has started his all medications to stabilize the patient. And now, according to him, and of course, I asked him, how you know whether patient is stabilized or not? He told the correctly things, something missing, but it's okay. And now we are posting him for the surgery where he said, I will go for a awake fiber optic intubation, which I said in your Fortis hospital, you don't have fiber optic. So now I want him to go further. So now he is coming to a thyroid block. So he said about thyroid block, and now he is describing the thyroid block. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Now you can start.
Carry on.
Rangit, you just tell the summarization of your thyroid block, the complete amount of the drugs and dosage to serve.
Okay, so we'll give a superficial and deep cervical block. The superficial block will be given bilaterally. The deep won't be given bilaterally. The superficial block will be given by the landmarks for this block will be the sternocleidomastoid muscle, the lateral border. A line will be joined from the mastoid process to the clavicle. And 2 centimeter distal to the mastoid process will be the C2, where we will be blocking the deep cervical block will be given.
Now tell me what will be the likely complication since you are given this thyroid block. Can you describe the complication that can be seen? Dr. Chakrabarti, the thyroid block was his choice. It was not
Yes,
my
sir.
choice, it was his choice.
I will ask some questions later on. You just carry on.
Yeah. That was his choice. I didn't force him. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I'm just asking him, tell me the likely complications if it all happens due to your thyroid block. Yes, describe.
The complication could be because of the deep block, we could have a phrenic nerve palsy.
Okay.
Then bleeding
Remember?
could be formed, hematoma could be formation.
Yes. Some more thing, very important one.
One thing I would like to ask. Do you very much confident about these cervical blocks? Have you done surgeries of this kind of thyroid surgeries under
No, he
superficial
said,
and deep cervical?
no, he
No,
said
I
he has not
haven't.
done.
Okay. Then
Yeah. See, there
now,
is
why you have chosen this particular block for this surgery?
Yes.
Are there any particular criteria for making such decision to go for cervical and deep cervical block?
Uh, Firstly, because fiber optic bronchoscope is not available at my institute, as well as the tracheostomy equipment was not available at my institute. So I will go for this one.
Thyroid swelling was so large that it already compressed the trachea, right?
Right.
There is tracheal compression.
There was tracheal compression because the breathlessness was there.
Yes.
I heard that there was
Yes.
a little breathless. You have checked that there is a possibility of tracheal compression. You have checked it already.
We have.
Have you checked
Yes,
that?
yes.
We have.
So
Yes.
he has checked that. He has checked that. Okay.
Uh,
Yes, you are missing one thing. See, we are giving such a big amount of volume, so chances of local anesthesia toxicity also should be added. Plus, we are very close to the big vessel, so there is a very high chance I may inject in either intravenous or there is a very close association with intrathecal or epidural area.
yes.
Plus, if it happens as a bilateral phrenic nerve palsy, patient will not be able to breathe, diaphragms will be gone. So you have to be prepared for these things. Okay. Hematoma, etc. You already told that. Fine. Okay. Done. Anyway, let's forget this. Tell me other option now. Fiber optic is not there. There's no other option. Since you said you people have not done any thyroid block so far.
But Professor Gadu, in my view, that most likely the deep cervical and superficial cervical blocks are given along with some kind of general anesthesia, and usually they're given to prolong the analgesia.
No, sir. No, I have done these cases under thyroid block. I think maybe at least 5, 6 I have done singularly. In fact, of late, there are some people in our place who are doing it even in the cervical epidural.
Yes, of course, we can give cervical epidural. There are so many papers are
But
there
and without any GA.
without any GA. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But there will be discomfort of the patient if only superficial cervical block is given.
No,
If
that he
both
said
of
also deep. So he also said deep cervical also he has given.
but
Yes,
deep cervical block, yes, you have to be very confident and competent about it. That is what I'm saying.
yeah, I know, but he only committed it. I didn't commit. Yes, now we forget our block, forget your fiber optic. Now tell me the option.
Next step will be tracheostomy. So
You can't do tracheostomy. It's such a big one tumor. You saw that. It's obscuring all your landmarks. How you are going to go ahead with a tracheostomy? Is it easy to do a tracheostomy in a thyroid patient? It's not possible at all.
In this case, it will be very difficult because the thyroid gland is bit large according to the history and examination.
Other could be
No
we
options?
can use a rigid bronchoscope with a mounted tracheal tube on it.
Yeah, but for rigid bronchoscope also, you can put a rigid bronchoscope under awake. You'll have to give some anesthesia. So how are you going to
Yeah.
do it? You have to give some anesthesia.
For that, we can
Will you permit
topical
me? Yeah, will you permit?
topicalization.
No, it won't work.
Okay, then should we use the glossopharyngeal nerve block with the transsuperficial laryngeal nerve and the RLN?
Have you given glossopharyngeal nerve block?
No, I haven't.
It is not practiced because remember one thing. Sorry, glossopharyngeal nerve block is very much closely hugging to vagus and accessory. So whatever you drug you give, it will spill over to the vagus and all. So naturally, it will cause a respiratory problem. Will have a lot of other problems, and this patient already has got those things.
Mhm. Other options could be blind nasal could be an option, but we cannot use.
Blind nasal
There is
technique is,
tracheal
and
deviation.
it will be very difficult in this case.
Yeah, since there is a tracheal deviation and difficult, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Then we cannot go with retrograde intubation because it is encroaching upon the cricothyroid membrane too. Then
Will you try inhalational?
inhalational, so just inhalational anesthesia for, but we have to intubate the patient. We
Of
have to
course,
find an airway.
of course. No,
So, laryngeal mask airway.
see, the laryngeal mask also may not help because there is a signs of tracheal compression. Laryngeal mask is supraglottic, it's not infraglottic, so it won't work.
Then the final step, if we don't have any of these, will be to go for a cardiopulmonary bypass or femoral block ECMO.
Wow, wow. Do you do in your institute this? No. What I would have done it, I would have just given a inhalation anesthesia, and that too in a lateral position also, so that whatever is the signs of tumor compression will be sidelined a little bit since it are not encroached. Or I will tell the assistant as the patient starts going slowly deeper, I'll tell the assistant to hold the thyroid gland and pull it up so the compression over the trachea will settle down. And thereafter I will check whether I can ventilate or not. Or if patient is sufficiently deep enough, I will put a rigid bronchoscope and I'll put the endotracheal. That should be the option.
Is there any option of intubating laryngeal mask airway, LMA? In this case, if the patient can be taken in the lateral position? I'm
No.
asking Professor Gedu, if is there any option of intubating laryngeal LMA?
No, but in such a case, there are 3 case reports in Canadian Journal 2 and 1 in the British Journal, which has said that if you put in intubating LMA also, there is no guarantee that your tube will be going further because the compression is a little bit below. I have not heard about the lateral position. What you said is okay. I have not heard about that. That you'll put an
Just to
intubating
avoid
LMA.
the pressure
Yeah.
on the trachea.
That case reports are not there, but this can be tried. There is nothing wrong in that. Agreed. Okay. Okay, let's make it a little different one. Okay. Rangit,
Yes,
are
sir.
you listening?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, it's not a, I mean, it's, you're planned for a, let's say, what you call IV induction agent, since it is not compressing the trachea. Okay. The
Yeah.
swelling is big, but it is not compressing the trachea now
Mm.
because you have given iodides and all other things. The swelling has come down. So now it is not compressing the trachea. There are no signs of breathing difficulty. There are no signs of deglutition problem as of now. Let's say. And now you want to give general anesthesia. Okay. And you want to give either IV induction or inhalation induction. Tell me how you are going to proceed.
IV induction agent. I will choose um thiopentone.
Why nowadays you don't use thiopentone? No? Why you use thiopentone?
Thiopentone will be chosen because it has an additional advantage that it inhibits conversion of T4 to T3.
So it has
Peripheral.
got an anti-thyroid action.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, point is well taken. Next.
2 to 5 mg per kg will be the induction dose.
Okay.
Then
Then
maintenance will be done.
see,
with-
sorry, how you are going to proceed after induction?
So after using giving the induction agent, we'll use a direct laryngoscopy and intubation since the trachea is not deviated and there is no tracheal
You are
compression.
not giving relaxant.
What relaxant you are going to use? That is
That's
what
what even I'm.
he's asking.
Yes, you can't intubate under thyroid. I mean, thiopentone, because that can induce the laryngospasm.
Mhm.
What is the preferable anesthetic? A muscle relaxant for you in this case?
I will use an vecuronium.
This becomes a small amount of suicidal tendency.
So vecuronium has less
No, not
cardiovascular.
that. See, remember one thing: the minute you give relaxant, and let's say it's a thyroid swelling, it just
Yes.
the muscles are relaxed, the thyroid collapses down, and you can't ventilate now. The respiratory obstruction has started. And if you are given vecuronium, you can imagine what will go wrong
So
over the next 25-30 minutes. So, at the most,
So then
I
I
will,
will use a succinylcholine.
okay, I'll do one thing now. I'll still complicate the matter. You gave succinylcholine, and now you found that you could not ventilate. Next. You can't ventilate that whatever 2, 3, 4 minutes. Next.
For that, sir, I will lift the thyroid.
Yes,
Mass.
excellent. And if there is no lift available, you should say I will make the patient lateral also.
lateral.
Okay?
Lateral. Yes.
Okay?
Very-
Yeah. And then, so this is not suicidal because you got only 2-3 minutes for your relaxation. During that time, since you have pre-oxygenated the patient for 5 minutes, you got
Mhm.
that much breathing time for you. Okay? So you can intubate thereafter. Fine? Okay. Which tube you will put?
I'll use a flexometallic tube because it is kink resistant.
Fine. Okay, fine. Now, how you are going to maintain now?
Maintenance will be with sevoflurane and short-acting
Any
opioids.
other tube can be used instead of flexometallic tube. You can use any other. If a normal tube is used, what will be the problem? Normal Protex tube is used, or any other kind of tube is used in these
We
cases.
can use an RAE not pole can be used.
Yeah. Okay, carry on.
Maintenance will be with sevoflurane. Short-acting opioids can be given like fentanyl.
Tell me the dose. Make it a habit to tell the dose also.
Dose of fentanyl will be 1 to 2 mics per kg. And sevoflurane will keep the MAC at 2.
See, once again, you should always say that maintenance will be first to commit about the oxygen which you are not taking till now. So it should will be oxygen plus minus nitrous. Thereafter, you go for a CO and relaxant. What you're giving now, now you can give your Vecuronium since you want Vecuronium. Fine, and fentanyl, whatever you have said. Fine. Okay, you have started the surgery. Surgery has started. Suddenly, in between, you are just cool, you are a second year student, you don't know. And Dr. Chakravarti comes from a distance and he says, Arey, what the hell you are doing here? Your patient is in thyroid storm. Now you tell me how he told you that patient is in thyroid storm. As I told you, he just peeped from the theater window and he said, how he could do that? Chakrabarti Jayanto is laughing. Is it correct question, sir?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. You have
Yes.
given him the hints.
Ideally. You understand my question?
Yes,
Rangit?
sir.
Yeah. He saw from the peeping window and he said, Ranjit, what you are doing? Your patient is in thyroid storm. How he told, I don't know. Now you tell me how he told that. How he came to this conclusion.
The patient is tachycardic. He could see on the monitor that the patient
Tachycardia, listen, tachycardia can be because you are not possibly given the patient the right amount of dose. Right analgesic or patient is in the lighter
It
range.
may be due to many causes, but there is a
Yes.
specific thing which can give
That's
you
the
the
reason I'm telling. That's the reason
yes.
he
temperature.
saw it from the window.
Temperature on the monitor.
Sorry?
Temperature.
Temperature. No.
Hypothermia.
Temperature
No,
figure.
no, something else. Just think a little bit. You will find it.
See, this is a very important question for you.
I think you know it. Please just tell him.
Yes.
He's asking a specific question. Yes,
Yes.
ask you a specific question. A specific thing is to be looked for.
Jayanta, are you happy with the question?
Yes, very good.
Yes.
I don't know.
Remember, examiners have the least patience. So don't take time. If you don't know, tell okay, no. Tell me what all the monitors you are going to see in this patient.
হ্যাঁ গো মোবাইল
Sir,
What all monitoring you do for this patient, which will be a hint for
into
you.
the N. The SpO2, ECG,
SpO2
temperature.
ECG. One more important. Temperature
SpO2
is saying
What else? What else? Temperature. What else?
he's missing the first one, main.
What else? ECG, SpO2, temperature. Anything else?
The non-invasive blood pressure.
Okay.
Forget.
Anything else? Anything else?
And he's
Then
giving you the hints also.
Are mere dost, I am an internal examiner now suddenly. Tell now.
and then there will be a question of differential diagnosis. I am giving you more hints.
Okay.
The EtCO2 will be seen too.
What happens to the EtCO2?
So the patient will be EtCO2 will come down.
Come down.
ETCD will be come down.
You tell me if he is suspecting a thyroid storm.
What
let's
will
say,
happen?
What will happen to your EtCO2? Does it come down? See, earlier he came, he peeped in the window where EtCO2 possibly was 30, 32, 33. And now after some time he came, God knows what happened. He said now it is 45, 50. So now you tell me what can be your differential diagnosis since he asked this question also.
Malignant hyperthermia is a
Malignant hyperthermia, you are given scoline. That time only it would have ruined everything. Now we are intubated, surgery has already started. So malignant hyperthermia is not a chance at all. In this patient, what all possibilities are there? As Jayanta sir has said, that your EtCO2 is shot up to 45, 50, 55, I don't know why. So what can be the possible things? I'll add further also that possibly your patient is going into the ventricular arrhythmia or tachyarrhythmia or maybe even atrial fibrillation. Maybe plus minus, but ET-CO2 is main. Temperature is also rising, but that from a distance you could not see.
So it will be a clear case of thyroid storm.
Yeah. So what happens in thyroid storm? Why your ET-CO2 is rising now? See, there is a grossly increase in the metabolic rate because there is a tachycardia. There are so many things. There is a sudden release of thyroid hormones, so which increases your metabolism. And naturally, when the metabolism is increased, the ET-CO2 production will also get increased.
Okay.
So that is the main reason. Any other reason, since he has asked about differential diagnosis?
Differential, there could be pheochromocytoma impending or the other multiple endocrine neoplasia the patient has.
Okay, see, this is what we call in English inviting the trouble. Pheochromocytoma, it's in abdomen. Now, you tell me one thing. There is one word, since you said pheochromocytoma. Now, you will give me explanation of one word. What is apudoma? A-P-U-D-O-M-A. Apudoma. Which is again, and what you call it, its long form is amine precursor uptake derivative tumor, which are the satellite centers of pheochromocytoma or adrenaline secreting. These are possibly that this can be there in the thyroid, but don't commit this in the exam. This and pheochromocytoma is also no chance. This is one of the rarest one that is called apudoma. So don't commit about that. Let's say that's not the differential diagnosis. One is a thyroid storm. Second, sir wants to know some more causes. Why ET-CO2 rises?
As I already mentioned, one important cause, malignant hyperthermia. And another cause is there also.
Okay, sir was insisting you to put your north pole tube. Which is not a, what you call, non-kinking tube. It is a kinkable tube.
Yes.
So when surgeon is mal-handling all this tumor, it may be getting kinked, the tube.
And nowadays we are using, we are very comfortable with these flexometallic tubes, non-kinking tubes. But previously, sometimes we also, when the due to non-availability of these kind of tubes, we also use north pole tubes, and sometimes that makes some difficulty.
Yes,
of course.
yes.
During the process of the surgery, there is blockage of the tube, kinking of the tube, and that also may raise ET-CO2.
Yes.
Due to the blockage of the tube.
Okay, Rangit, let's say this is a thyroid storm. Okay, the tube blockage is being ruled out. There is also third possibility that your tube must have gone inside into the one lung. So endobronchial intubation also can be one of the cause for rise in ET-CO2. Not a regular cause, but can be, since he has asked for the differential diagnosis. Now let's say this is in thyroid storm. Now you tell me the exact protocol, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 steps. Tell me how you are going ahead, since Jayanta sir has said that it is a thyroid storm. Now tell me the protocol, how you are going to go ahead to manage.
For this, I'll give IV fluids. The patient
is already getting IV fluids. See, that's the reason I said you have to come with a proper.
You know, Rangit, you just go on. You know what are to be done, what is to be done, what are things to be done. You know, just go on. You just one by one. What is done first of all?
First of all, since I can see that the patient's temperature is very high, I will.
So that is already diagnosed as a thyroid storm. Next.
I will use cooling blankets will be given, cooling measures will be used for the patient.
Remember
Then
one thing, the first step has to be to stop the stimulation, and the stimulation is by the surgeon. So tell the surgeon to stop the surgery so that ongoing stimulation
Very,
will be
very
reduced.
important.
mm,
Very, very,
After that, you go ahead, whatever steps you're going to.
very first
cooling
thing is to stop the study.
of the surgery.
Next, after surgery has been stopped. Okay, I'm the surgeon, I just moved away. Next,
Uh, Cooling measures will be taken. Then when we start with glucose containing
can you
IV
tell me
bolus,
how you're going to do the cooling method? Let's say the patient temperature, which was normally supposed to be 36, 37, has now gone to 40 plus. How you are going to cool this patient? See, for
ice
everything,
packs,
there are the standard guidelines.
guideline, we use ice packs for the
Ice packs for
External cooling.
external cooling.
this is external cooling. You can put a cool blanket. You can put ice packs around the body. Any other thing. Do you heard of something internal cooling also?
There is a bladder irrigation we can use.
Okay. Anything more? Why don't you start the cold saline?
Cold saline, yeah, we can.
Even I don't mind putting a rice tube also and putting through the rice tube. The
Absolutely.
internal cooling also can be done.
You can give ice cold water or milk, whatever.
Yes. Cool, chilled one. Next, cooling is done. But before that, there are so many important steps that has to be taken. The first step was also surgery stop. Thereafter, what?
Uh, Beta blockers have to be used to decrease the heart rate.
Remember one thing I already told you. There is a, I can say, I may be wrong figure, 100 times increasing in your metabolic rate. So once my metabolic rate has increased, naturally my some demand is increased. So what you will do? I'm giving a straightforward hint.
You have already told that a few minutes ago.
Make it
Use
100%
the
oxygen
antisteroid
first.
medications.
Make it 100% oxygenation. Okay. Next,
So do we start? We start on the antithyroid medications.
like what?
Propylthiouracil will be used.
How? Root, IV dose,
300.
intravenous dose, whatever dose.
I'll use 400 milligrams through the Riles tube. I'll give.
Good, very good. Next,
Then beta blockers I'll be giving to decrease the heart rate. Propranolol 1 mg IV bolus followed by esmolol infusion. I can use 50 to 100 mics per day.
why you're making double combo beta blocker, propranolol and esmolol? Why don't you stick to one drug?
What is the advantage of using propranolol here?
Propranolol inhibits conversion of T4 to T3, decreases the
It will
hydroxy.
take care of both. It will take care of the CVS system as well as the conversion of T4 to T3. And what is the role of esmolol? Sir is asking.
Esmolol is a short acting and we can
What
use
is-
infusion.
And
Propranolol.
would you like to use? Would you like to use both of these drugs? That is what he's asking.
We could use either of these.
So why don't you tell one of them only?
Yeah. Propranolol I will use.
Any other drug, forget that. Any other major, I'm sorry.
Then I'll go.
See, you said oxygen, stop surgery, oxygen, antithyroid drug, propranolol. Next,
Then iodides will be given to the patient.
how?
Saturated
Always,
solution
how
of
you are going to,
potassium iodide.
which one? How you are going to give iodides? You have to tell me the route.
Iodides will also be, sir, through the Riles tube we can give.
Can't you give intravenous? Are there something available?
Intravenous epodate can be used. So
Yes, that is what you can.
That is,
0.5
see,
milligrams can be
we
used.
basically want a fast acting thing, whatever it is. So you have to give fast acting thing only. Okay. Next, after this, any other remaining?
And sir, hydrocortisone can be given.
Yes. So,
Hydrocortisone 100 mg, start and continue for thrice daily doses. Um,
Anything else?
Sir, electrolyte imbalances have to be managed. Hyponatremia has been seen, so we have to manage electrolyte imbalances.
it's
Hyponatremia is a very common thing in these cases.
not at all. I won't agree this.
Do you think hyponatremia occurs in thyroid storm?
It's not common. Don't say that. Fine. Apart, let's.
Another, I think dantrolene sodium can also be used
Sir, it's not
in
available.
refractory cases.
No need. It's not available
It's
yet.
not available, but it can be used. Dantrolene is last choice in refractory cases if it is available.
Any? Okay, forget this now. Let's tell me any other complication that can occur with this surgery apart from thyroid storm. Intraoperative.
Intra, there could be obstruction of the endotracheal tube could happen. There could be accidental extubation. And
Bleeding, hypothermia, vocal cord palsy. If I'm a rash surgeon, I may cut some nerves here and there.
yes.
Hmm?
So vocal cord palsy, we can diagnose a post-op. Intra-op, we can see that any
Okay.
extubation or obstruction. So.
Okay. Now let's say, since it was a large thyroid, now tell me what will be your protocol. Surgery is being done. Tell me the protocol for your extubation.
So extubation.
Yes.
For extubation, we have to ask the surgeon to see if there is any distortion or any abnormality in the trachea. They can see if there is any.
How can they see?
So they are in the surgical field. So
No, they cannot see. They are not erased or they are not brushed. They have not done any damage to the trachea as of now. I am the surgeon. I didn't touch the trachea. I just cleaned it very properly. I have not done a millimeter damage also to your trachea. Next.
we'll again, sir, we have to use a fiber optic bronchoscope to check for any if there is any tracheomalacia or any obstruction post-op or the vocal cord dysfunction is there.
Is there any other test also which can tell you that,
Leak
as I
test is
told,
there.
so what I told you already, if fiber optic is not available, will you do something? Leak test. What is exactly you understand by leak test?
Leak test denotes by using leak test we can check if there is any obstruction in the airway in the trachea before
It's not
extubation.
obstruction. The word should be collapse.
Collapse.
It's not the obstruction. The trachea collapses. That is what we call it as a tracheomalacia.
Tracheomalacia.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Tracheomalacia.
here the possibility is very high because you said that the thyroid gland is very large and there was a history of that.
Compression also.
So compression is also
Compression.
there.
Yes.
So after post-operative complications like tracheomalacia is a very high chance in this case.
Okay. Now I have given you the fiber optic. Now tell me how you are going to go ahead with the extubation. You have done the leak test. Leak test has come positive.
Leak test has come positive.
Is how, but anyway, forget it. How you are going to get use of your fiber optic to know whether the trachea is collapsing or not? Since I have given you now the fiber optic scope.
We'll see during inspiration uh, there will be collapse in the upper airways, and during expiration
No, remember one thing, during the surgery, your trachea, sorry, the endotracheal tube was placed so nicely that the tumor was above it. So there is no chance of collapse there unless I remove the tube. So you cannot see it distal. If it is collapsing earlier only, then you would not have gone ahead with all this surgery. Okay? So tube was well placed above just below the thyroid. So now I have removed the thyroid. Now there is a small possibility of a tracheal collapse. So now you tell me how you are going to diagnose this on your fiber optic scope.
I can't recollect right now. So.
See, what I will do is I will put the fiber optic scope right up to the tip of the endotracheal tube, and thereafter I'll slowly, just by millimeter, I'll withdraw the tube. Once I withdraw the tube, the trachea over that will start collapsing. If it is collapsing, it will just hug the fiber optic scope. That means it is collapsing. So that means there is a tracheomalacia. So I will not extubate now. Okay. And still, if I want to extubate, what I'll do? Sir, 1 minute. Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
So if I
Continue,
want to
please.
extubate,
What can be your protocol to extubate such patient?
Say you do not have any fiber optic scope to measure all these things, then how do you manage this case?
Okay, see, initially I started no fiber optic, now we has continued it.
Most of the cases you won't find any fiber optic scope beside you. So what will be your protocol?
And remember, since you have put the north pole, fiber optic is not easy to put.
Definitely, you cannot. That is also a point.
See, even if you say that I'll keep the post-operative tube like that, only how many days? 1 hour, 10 days, 100 days?
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. How are you? Fine, thank you, sir.
we'll use an airway exchange catheter if we have to extubate the patient.
So what you will do with that? You are right. How you are going to go ahead with that?
We'll deflate the cuff and remove the tube, and immediately if there is any obstruction in the post-operative period, immediately after extubation, if we see if there is any
use the word that
distress,
I'll go ahead with a Cook's exchange catheter which has got a central hole. So I can even take care of a small amount of jet ventilation also in that, and I can continue to maintain the oxygenation a little bit. Okay?
Right, very good.
Fine, now you tell me one thing. Well, you have extubated the patient. Patient thankfully doesn't have tracheal collapse. Okay? But still, the patient could not breathe properly. We had a lot of problems. Now tell me what can be the other possibilities. Tracheal collapse is ruled out. Okay.
Collapse rule. Okay.
Any other possibility?
So there could be in the post-op period there could be a hematoma which could be
Well, I saw I am a good surgeon. I didn't do any hematoma. As far as hematoma is concerned, I'm not a good surgeon. I'm giving you a hint. Otherwise, I'm a rash surgeon. Next.
He's a rash surgeon. He has given you the hint.
That's what I
What he's
said.
asking for. He's
so we'll
asking
see
for
for the
something
Woodcock
specific.
palsy.
That's a perfect hint.
Laryngospasm can occur in the post-op period leading to
Laryngospasm, no.
Not
Any other?
he's not asking for the laryngospasm. He's asking for something else.
See, if you are
It's
talking
something.
about laryngospasm, na, that means you are not extubated in the proper time. Any other possibilities?
vocal cord palsy, so recurrent laryngeal nerve bilateral
Now,
palsy.
now you tell me in bilateral palsy, which one is the most dangerous?
Bilateral is the most dangerous. So,
Which one again? Adductor, abductor.
so the abductors are paralyzed first.
If you
Abductors are
got
more.
a if you got a bilateral abductor palsy, then it is possible, or bilateral partial recurrent of palsy. In that condition also, it becomes what we call in a proper language a cadaveric position of
Cadaveric.
Cadaveric
your
position.
cords. Your cords become like that,
Yeah.
so patient will not be able to breathe.
There will be
Okay,
stridor.
so they will be in the stridor. They will not be able to breathe, and it will be very uncomfortable. That also has to be told. Of course, hematoma is one of the cause. Second will be the bilateral palsy, and third, of course, as you said, uh, what you call the tracheomalacia. Okay, sir, ask something.
Yes. You are going fine. Please continue.
Who,
I'm not.
me? Oh my God.
I will support you right now. You just continue. If you think anything
Okay,
else,
okay. So far, everything is fine. Ranjit,
Yes, sir.
I'm changing the game. Okay, I'm changing the game. This is a retrosternal goiter. Now you tell me how you're going to go ahead. We have done the
Okay.
investigation. It proved that it is a retrosternal goiter.
Okay.
By the way, you know what is Pemberton sign, no?
Pemberton's and I do.
Okay, done. Can you explain?
Pemberton sign is uh,
In fact, nowadays they have stopped doing this because this is a more or less provocative test. So we
mhm.
are not supposed to do it. There
We
are
ask the
only
patient.
two
Yeah.
correct.
provocative tests in the field of anesthesia. I mean, in such cases, one is this, and second is crackpot test in the hydrocephalus. But once you tap on the skull, it can initiate an increase in the intracranial pressure. So that is also been a provocative test. So that is also been stopped. Okay. But
Okay.
still, I just want to know what is Pemberton sign.
So if we ask the patient to raise her hands above her head,
How much
we
above?
would be
No, you have to talk properly. How much above? I can go miles together. How much above? There is a definite deadline.
so
Up to
as
where you can. See, your arm should touch your earlobes.
arms
Yes.
to plus your
I have to
For
raise
the
this much.
mm-hmm.
I can raise, see, when I'm raising this much, I'm raising this much. This doesn't carry meaning. I have to touch my earlobes, both
Mm-hmm.
hands. That is the right technique to describe. Okay?
Okay.
Next. So
So
what happens in that condition? Suppose I raise this hand. What exactly it shows that it is a retrosternal goiter.
there will be some facial flushing. There will be dilated neck veins, and patient might have respiratory distress. And this all these symptoms will be because of the obstruction of the thoracic inlet. The goiter is obstructing the thoracic inlet and the
Okay, now this patient is a retrosternal goiter. Tell me how you're going to go ahead. It's just a game changer, nothing else. You are done so far. We have finished that case.
The investigations are all done. Through investigation, it has been seen that it is a retrosternal goiter.
We'll use a fiber optic bronchoscope for intubating the patient.
Fine. This time I'll permit you fiber optic. Okay. Are you going to do awake fiber optic?
Awake fiber optic, yes.
Tell me how you're going to allow the patient to tolerate that. Because you can't give the airway blocks. There is a big thyroid over here, possibly going up to the retrosternal. So I cannot give you the external laryngeal and all other blocks. So how you're going to do that fiber optic now? I'm not a cooperative patient.
So for this, we'll use proper sedation first. We have to inform the patient that we'll.
My dear friend, if you utter the word sedation, patient will have.
If you give sedation, this patient will be having
there will be
tremendous
obstruction.
problem. There will be tremendous problem for you and also the patient.
Exactly, obstruction hoga. So don't use the word sedation at all, since I told it is going down.
Okay. So anti-cyanogogues will be used, glycopyrrolate, 0.005 to 0.1 mg per kg. Then the patient will be given topicalization will be used using a
what topicalization? You tell me, describe that.
I could use a mucosal atomization device, or I will use a direct spray of for 4% lignocaine into the nasopharynx as well as the oropharynx, or I could use a 4% nebulization can be used. 5 ml of 4% lignocaine.
There is a word, that is a special word that is also being used apart from that. That is what we use the word spray as you go.
Spray as you go, yes.
So that wherever you are passing your fiber optic scope, I'll go on spraying a little further so that I can go further. So that word has to become. Yeah, before you continue further, I'm sorry. I just got one message I could read by Dr. Amna Goswami, one of the very senior one lady. She also wrote one of the cause for respiratory distress is your hypocalcemia.
Hypocalcemia, yes.
Which we actually forgot. I'm sorry. Thank you, madam. Okay. Next. Okay, you're done with the fiber optic scope. Next. Again, the extubation protocol will be the same problem you will get in such a patient. Okay. Sir, you want to ask something more, or you're like, I'll still convert the case?
You continue.
I don't know what Krishna is saying. Shall I continue, Krishna? Krishna is run away.
Please, sir, please. Continue.
Yes, sir. Continue, sir. Yes, sir. Continue.
We are learning.
We are enjoying many things. Please continue. Go on.
Yeah. My God. I thought you are going to give me a lot of galis.
No, sir. You just continue, sir.
At least, if not you, Ranjit will definitely give me so many galis.
No, he's enjoying also. I think so.
No, this will help. This will help him in his DNV final examination.
Definitely.
Don't worry, my dear friend. I'm also a DNP final examiner.
Sir, Ranjit is a very sportive person. I'm Shailesh here. Shailesh speaking. Ranjit is a very sportive person. He's a badminton player. So he can go on rallies, doing rallies. So let's continue for some more time.
Okay. Yes. Now we are finished. Now tell me one thing. This is one very interesting word that has come in my mind. What is thyroid escape? Have you heard my word correctly? What is thyroid escape? That means sort of I was gripping the thyroid. I lost it. It just escaped from my grips. Tell me what you understand by this and what are the causes?
So hypothyroidism after removal of the thyroid gland.
No way. Thyroid escape is a terminology that is being coined for the hyperthyroid patients only, not at all for hypothyroids.
We have not discussed much about hypothyroidism. Please continue
I
with
think we will
something
come
about
to that.
hypothyroidism.
Okay, you can forget the
You just
escape.
you just tell this this thing, thyroid
Forget.
escape.
You want me to tell?
Yes, of course.
Or Ranjit is telling?
Rangit is not telling.
Okay. See, this is a word that is being coined that when a patient, this can happen even pre-operatively, when the patient is already been put in the antithyroid drug, whatever you said, since the patient was in toxicosis and you started antithyroid drugs, beta blocker, and so many other things. And now what happens? Suddenly, for some reason, patient gets infection. Wherever in your body, whether it is your lungs or wherever, you get an infection. Or there is a sudden stress or surgical stress or any another psychological stress and all those things, infection can lead sudden escape of the thyroid, whatever your control, suddenly you will find patient is going into the toxicosis
In
once again.
hyperthyroid stage.
Okay, so this is what we call as far as preoperative is concerned. And as far as even when you are touching the thyroid, it's same like your pheochromocytoma. When you touch the abdomen, palpate the abdomen, there is sudden gush of the adrenalines and all those things.
Hormone.
So in such conditions also the BP shoots up. So here also when a patient is in thyrotoxicosis and he's not been well controlled, and now I'm examining the thyroid, so I'm manually touching the thyroid. That is also one of the another reason what also can produce a what you call thyroid escape.
It can also produce thyroid storm also in post-operative period if you handle
That
the
is a
case
post-operative.
pre-operative.
See, thyroid has a very funny words that are being attached. There's one more word I will guide for you. That is thyroid steel. I'm sure old timers know what is thyroid steel. Steel is STEAL. That means chori. Okay. Yeah. So what do you understand by thyroid steel?
So thyroid steel was an ancient technique in which patients were prepared, anxious patients. It was used for patients who were very anxious before surgery. So it was a method in which every morning for 3 days prior to the surgery, patients were given IV fluids, supplementation, and for 2 days continuously, and day along with IV fluids, the induction agent will be given to the patient.
See, the protocol says that you bring the patient, the minute you bring the patient in the OT table and the lights are put on, he suddenly becomes tachycardic and all those things. So he lands up into thyroid storm. So in such a condition, every day I will get him in the table and I tell him, no, it's just like a fun. I'm not operating you right now. Don't worry. So after 3-4 days, I'll put IV line and I'll take him back. And next day, I'll just give him induction. So that's exactly what we call, we steal the thyroid from the patient. Okay, this is thyroid steel. Now, as Jayanta sir has said, let's come to let's say this patient is, though it has got a big swelling, he is hypothyroid. We investigated and we found he is hypothyroid.
Okay.
Tell, what do you understand by hypothyroid now? This patient is hypothyroid. We found out T3, TSH and T4 and we found he is hypothyroid. Tell me what will be the clinical signs and symptoms of a patient who is hypothyroid.
The patient will have a dull, the facial features will be, a patient will be dull, expressionless look. The patient will have puffy face. The face will be puffy and cold. Cold intolerance will be seen in this patient. The
Which
skin will
intolerance?
be coarse and dry.
Cold intolerance.
Cold intolerance.
Okay. It will be dry.
The skin will be dry and coarse.
Scaly. Yeah. And there will be weight gain. They are leading
There will be weight gain.
There will be sedentary life, so there will be weight gain, and If you see the pulse may have a bradycardia also. Okay, so that you have to tell these some few of the findings. Okay, now let's say again today he is diagnosed as a thyroid hypothyroid. Tell me, will you like to prepare this patient before surgery, or I can operate him tomorrow?
Would you like to make the patient euthyroid? That is the question.
I will make the patient euthyroid. For this, I will have to halt the elective surgery for 6.
How much?
How many days?
So 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, what you will start? We are just waiting 6 to 8 weeks doesn't solve the
I'll
problem.
give the patient IV T3 can be given to the patient.
What IV?
20 micrograms.
IV T3 for 6 weeks. You were postponing the surgery for 6
You're
weeks.
postponing. He is right, absolutely. You're postponing for 6 to 8 weeks. Why you want to go
If we are
with
postponing
IV?
for 6 to 8 weeks, we can give the patient oral thyroxine 50 micrograms. Start with 50, then we increase the dose every 2 to 3 weeks by
Why?
25 to 50 micrograms.
How would you monitor? How do you like to monitor?
After 3 weeks, I will check the TSH level as well as the free T3, T4 levels again.
Anything else for patient subjective feelings? He was looking dull. You are looking like that, quiet and all. So now at least he will become more active, more looking better also. The moistness of the skin will come back.
The body weight will be reduced.
Okay.
To some extent.
So now, what will be your preoperative preparation for this patient? Since you have done the thyroxine you are given, tomorrow I am posting him for surgery. Posting her, I'm sorry, not him. So how will you proceed? To give what will be your preoperative orders overnight?
So the patient is euthyroid now after the therapy, or is it emergency?
Okay, it's I will not say euthyroid, nearly euthyroid. After the Dotin medication you give 6 to 8 weeks, and I want to operate him tomorrow, her tomorrow. I'm sorry again.
Okay, the patient will receive the antithyroid medication on the morning of surgery too.
Okay, you want to continue that?
Yes, I will continue the thyroxine on the morning of surgery.
Just wait 1 minute. Shailesh, there is some, please move this window away from the shared application. What is this message coming? It's coming again and again, this message. Can you see this message over here on the, I don't know what is this. I think it is diverting.
Which message, sir?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think now that message is gone. Okay. Yeah.
Gone.
Next. You want to continue. Do you want to give overnight sedation also to this patient?
No, sedative medications will be avoided in hypothyroid patients.
Good. Next. That's all. Now continue anesthesia part.
Okay. Ketamine will be my induction agent of choice for the patient.
Always. All the cases, ketamine will be your induction agent. Okay.
I think nowadays they don't use much of the ketamine also, but anyway. Why you're using ketamine, by the way?
You have already made the patient euthyroid. Is there any definitive role of ketamine right now? You have to give ketamine or something like that. I don't know. What is your view, Professor Gedu?
No, I'm just saying, sir, it is the induction agent of choice, but I will, because it is, the patients are usually bradycardic, so this will help for those patients.
We have already said patient is becoming the nearly euthyroid.
Okay. So I will go for propofol induction.
This is another one which should not be taken. I should say that I'll prefer to go. There are books which says that, of course, ketamine is a choice. Second, people say that I'll prefer to go with a double diluted thiopentone also, so that a significant hypotension doesn't occur, which is caused by your propofol. It has been said that propofol can reduce your blood pressure by at least 30%, while double diluted thiopentone can reduce by 10 to 12%.
Sleeping dose of thiopentone is a term I would have used.
Okay.
Okay. Then maintenance will be with opioids and or
Again,
should
you are, again you are
I'm
not
missing the
going.
airway. Airway.
Relaxant you didn't tell me.
Muscle relaxant, I will use succinylcholine for induction. Then
Role of inhalation induction agents. What is the role of any induction? Role of induction agents, inhalation inductions. Would you prefer or not?
inhalation induction, we can go for it. We can go for inhalation induction because hypothyroidism does not affect the MAC values of induction inhalation agents.
No, it brings down a lot.
But it will produce a lot of hypotension. There is a possibility of, so it is better to go for IV induction agents. So it is better to avoid inhalation induction. What do you say, Professor Gedu?
Yes, talk.
Then, so after using scolding and depending on the location of the thyroid, the goiter, and if there is any deviation or compressibility of the trachea, will
see. This is the same patient. Now we have made it hypothyroid. So patient is same. The
there is tracheal
growth
compression.
is same. The tumor growth is same. We have not changed that. Only thing from hyperthyroid we made it to hypothyroid. Okay. So clinically everything is same.
For maintenance, we'll use sevoflurane and fentanyl. We can use fentanyl as opioids for
Alfentanil.
So fentanyl, 1 to 2 mics per kg.
I was wondering suddenly how you came to alfentanil.
No, sir, fentanyl.
Will it use the same dose as earlier, like for any other, or you'll reduce the doses?
In hypothyroidism, I will reduce the dose of all the agents.
Okay, during surgery, again this patient went into the myxedema, not coma, myxedema crisis during surgery. So now you tell me how you treat. Earlier that patient went in thyroid storm. Now this fellow has gone into myxedema crisis. That means he suddenly started having a bradycardia and all other things, and he become chilled, cold. Now what will be your drug?
First will be to stop the surgery again.
Then next?
Next will be, sir, oxygen supplementation and warming devices to warming the patient.
Come to the drug.
Sir?
What are the drugs to be used right now?
Drugs.
The patient is developed myxedema coma or myxedema crisis. Now, what are the drugs to be used?
We'll go for IV thyroxine, triiodothyronate, T3.
That's
T3
a good one.
micrograms.
That's a perfect answer. Plus, I don't mind using steroids. And since it's a bradycardia, I don't mind using even some vasopressors. or like ephedrine and all, which can act on both sides.
The
That
role
is,
of hydrocortisone or dexamethasone is very important for cardiac.
you have to tell these things also, okay?
Mhm.
Shailesh, you want to continue? Stop. I think it's enough.
It's enough. It's enough.
Yes,
think we have
it's
to-
almost. Yes, sir, Dr. Krishnendu here. It's almost 2 hours, and Rangit
know.
is Rangit is talking continuously for
I
the
think-
last 2 hours, and there is Rangit performed very well. Thank you, Rangit. It needs
I think-
courage to face.
I must
yes.
say I am very, very sorry for joining late, but I really enjoyed the whole discussion. And
Yes.
really, it's a very, very interesting discussion by Professor
I think,
Gedu.
I think before
really enjoyed.
I think before Rangit goes into the crisis, we should stop here now.
Yes, and there is big thank to Professor Gedu from core of our heart, and he discussed thyroid from every aspect. And thank you, sir. Thank you very much for spending 2 hours of your precious time. Thank you very much.
I hope I have done the justice.
Yes, thank you.
Sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
I should
It
say
was
thanks
really
also.
wonderful.
I
It
think
was really wonderful. Sir,
thank you.
please continue, sir.
No,
Sir.
I should. Yes,
No,
Krishna.
it's
Sir, Krishna,
Yes, tell.
थैंक यू सर, बहुत अच्छा लगा, एकदम पूरा रिफ्रेश हो गया. यू टॉट हाइपरथायराइड, हाइपोथायराइड, एवरीथिंग. क्या रंगीत, यू एंजॉय?
Yes, ma'am.
पक्का हो गया केस एकदम पक्का हो गया ना?
बिल्कुल.
Rangit, don't take it in a negative way. Take it in a positive way. That this is a stepping
I think
stone.
he has learned a lot and he has enjoyed the whole session.
Good.
Rohit will learn many things from this thing, and your
And-
teaching is very good.
And if Rangit get a long case of thyroid in the DNV exam, he will just do the justice.
Excellent. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, actually, a good teacher is one. A good teacher is one who asks who teaches well, asks lot of questions, and gives good marks in the examination. And a
Yes.
good student
Yes.
student is who studies well and does not argue with the examiner. So he's a good student. So I think the examiners and the candidate both have fairly done very well. And it's a teaching session for the new examiners also. The way the things have been handled. So
absolutely,
the new
absolutely.
examiners, the young examiners also have learned a lot of things from here. And obviously the students have been benefited. So thanks everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
Jayanto sir.
Both
Thank
of you,
you,
sir.
Jayanto
Okay,
sir.
okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me here. I'm really
Well done,
enjoyed the
Rangit.
whole session. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
so
very much, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
well done,
Thank you
Rangit.
very much
Thank
for
you.
giving
Thank
your
you.
Thank you,
time.
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It's a very good
Thank
you.
session.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you, Shailesh. Thanks for
Okay.
making
Thank
me
you,
a
sir.
part of this.
Okay.
Thanks for making
Thank
me
you.
a part of this. And I hope I have done the proper job.
Okay.